MSNBC host Nicole Wallace saying that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is directly linked, get this folks, to the Capitol breach on January the 6th. How does she make the leap? Let's take a listen.
Undeniable and uncomfortable reality for Republicans is that everything about January 6th made everything about invading Ukraine easier for Vladimir Putin.
So what happened to Nicole Wallace? One time working for George W. Bush in communications. And what happened to Steve Schmidt, two veterans, of course, of the McCain-Palin presidential campaign? She's unhinged, as you just heard. And well, did you hear about this? Tweeting for 30 hours straight to Meghan McCain over liking a tweet calling him a pedophile. John, you got a question. Is this any way for folks to live? And 30 hours, wow.
It's quite a tweet storm. Yeah. Espressos or something else. Let's welcome in Democratic strategist and former Obama advance man Robin Biro. Also back with us is Morgan Zager. She's the founder of Young Americans Against Socialism. Morgan, Robin, thanks for sticking around. You know, I look at this stuff and it reminds me of how important it is to have a life outside of media and politics and focus on other things beside. Because you look at both of these people, they've made their whole life about this, and they just seem so hollowed out and broken, Robin.
Yeah, exactly. When you were in the lead to the segment, all I could think of, John, was this seems like the perfect time for them both to take a vacation. And look, you don't even have to wear masks on planes right now. You could go anywhere you want. And I think they should. I think they're burned out right now and need a break.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you go back into television. I get it, Morgan. The other thing we see is this like kind of laser focus from people like Nicole Wallace and Steve Schmidt to link everything to January 6th. And now, yes, Vladimir Putin saw a green light when he watched a bunch of angry people riot at the Capitol. That definitely is point A, which, of course, leads us to point B, the invasion of Ukraine, right?
Yeah, John, when I was in my kitchen on January 6, 2021, watching what was happening in Washington, D.C., I could feel my heart sinking as I saw the events unfold, because I said, this is exactly what the left was hoping for and what they were needing to now justify the weaponization of the bureaucracy at the federal level against average Americans that are dissenters to the radical leftist woke think and anything else that they want to do with this country. And so that's why we're able to see them justify doing things like sending FBI agents after parents that are concerned about what's being taught to their children in school boards. It's also why we are continuing to see things like Vice President Kamala Harris say that what keeps her up at night, she did this in a recent interview, she was asked what keeps her up at night and what's her biggest concern for national security, and she said, our democracy. Now, when you start connecting the dots that they believe conservatives and people that were maybe affiliated with January 6th or were even there at the Capitol to express their concern with the general election, that we are all domestic terrorists threatening democracy, it also makes a lot more sense why they're creating things like the Governance Disinformation Board. So they needed that justification to classify average Americans that are concerned with the future of the country as domestic terrorists, and now we're seeing the unfortunate rollout of that.
You know, it's interesting what you bring up there about Kamala Harris, because, you know, this hasn't been talked about at all, but she was supposed to be at the Democratic National Committee headquarters there the day after that bomb was planted, and we haven't heard anything from her about why haven't they been able to find the bomber. This is something that doesn't get talked about. I'll leave that aside, but, you know, Morgan brings a number of other important points as well, Robin. But when we talk about taking it back to Nicole Wallace and Steve Schmidt, I think most Americans, common sense Democrats and Republicans, they see the protests at the Supreme Court Justice's house, and most people know that's not acceptable. Those protests should be in front of the Supreme Court in a public square, just like most common sense people know it's not okay to violently enter the Capitol to protest the election of 2020. This is the type of stuff that constantly gets ginned up on cable news. And I just wonder how much traction it actually has with the American public writ large.
Not much, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that everyday Americans can see through this, can see through the hyperbole and all the propaganda and know exactly, just like you said, John, it's a common sense thing. Yes, it's your First Amendment right to free speech. Please exercise that, but not maybe at someone's home or place of work, maybe in a public square. But this drives me crazy, and it's always, you know, the Chicken Little sky is falling analogy with the journalists who've frankly been in the industry for decades. I see so many, and they seem just burned out. This is all they live. Like you said, that they live this day in and day out. They know nothing else other than this, and this is what keeps them up at night. And frankly, they're too embroiled with conspiracy theories. So
I'm glad you mentioned conspiracy theories, because that's a natural segue to our new White House press secretary. She's been accused of, you know, posturing conspiracy theories. But, you know, going back to this whole issue of Nicole Wallace, we were also struck by the fact that a guy named Tom Elliott, you should probably follow him on Twitter. He posts a lot of these clips online. He was actually blocked by Karine Jean-Pierre for posting that tweet there. And Elliott tweeted, "Surely a violation of my First Amendment right to troll the White House press secretary." This was actually litigated in the Supreme Court with President Trump. You know, these government officials, Morgan, they should not be blocking people, especially dissent. This only leads to more dissent.
Right. I mean, if you look at this at the basic level, she's supposed to be representing the Biden administration and speaking on their behalf. It's the link between the people and whatever President Biden and his administration is working on. So I do think it's really important, though, that a lot of us are forgetting that we have pieces of power. We have the ability to have positive change in this country. And I think that's starting with people like Jen Psaki and this new press secretary who's going to be taking over. How far are you willing to go to do the dirty work of a terribly corrupt and misleading administration? Are you willing to lie on their behalf, or do you want to stand up for yourself and have more dignity than what they're expecting of you? I think that's a really important question, and more Americans should ask themselves that. Are you just doing your job and complying with something that's not moral anymore, or do you really believe in what you're saying?